Good evening and welcome back to Checkpoint. Our focus on grand corruption continues here. Before we went on break, David Ndii, you brought up that Eurobond and the missing billions allegedly. Let me bring it to you, Auditor General. To date, have your concerns on the Eurobond been answered?
The Eurobond report is going to come out. There's a report which is coming out, and I would like that report to come out. Then we can have the discussions after that. But the report is coming out about the Eurobond, the receipt of the money, and the usage or otherwise.
When is it set to come out?
We are coming out very soon after with this year's financial accounts.
Okay, we'll wait for that. So let's take you to the integrated financial management system and some of the mess that was raised by the Auditor General in the year 2014 in the report, and just look at some of those issues that were raised about numerous weaknesses in the financial management system that exist in that expose it to fraud and misuse. Also, it was found that personnel are authorized to access system remotely, and identity of personnel logging in remote places not known. So somebody could be seated somewhere in Garissa, Mombasa, and able to access IFMIS and without knowing who that person is. Unidentified users capable of having multiple user IDs. So there could be someone accessing your money with multiple IDs, 50 in number, or others, as you've seen there, 50 users had more than one user ID. It was found in that particular report. Possible to create ghost IDs and carry out transactions. That is scary, that you could just have an ID, it's unknown who it is, and they're messing around with Kenyans' money. Duplication of vendors. For instance, you'd have one vendor with multiple vendor accounts showing up, and they could be paid even, say, 50 times is what that report indicated. And Auditor General, that is really scary, to say the least, to imagine that a system that 11 billion shillings was used to set it up had this kind of flaws at the very basic level, even talking about password, that kind of checks you have of 90-day expiry, so that you check in, so that even that password that was stolen during NYS1 could still be the same password if I'm told today I can access. Has anything changed in your view?
Since we did the audit, in 2014, and it was 2014, 2015, we haven't gone back again. But since then, of course, some of the weaknesses you're talking about, the NYS, has been the evidence of those weaknesses. So clearly, 2016, nothing much has happened on the weaknesses. Otherwise, I think if some of those weaknesses had been addressed, then we would have caught some of the excesses we are seeing.
Yeah. Spokesperson, the PS Treasury just wrote to all accounting officers around the country talking about rejigging the system to still make sure that there are tighter security measures put in place. So again, that's worrying that still we have a system that is, financial management is an important and key area in as far as governance, that still has loopholes that are allowing some of these theft incidences to take place.
The loopholes are not as a result of system failure. In my own assessment and in the assessment of the investigators, the loopholes are as a result of collusion. People sitting down and conspiring to steal. Remember that IFMIS is an ICT system like any other, and it is an accounting mechanism. So where people sit around a table and at different levels, to understand it, when you require money for any process from the PS Treasury, it will give you the money when it is available and following other parameters. Now, when the money reaches the table, the junior officers, the junior and middle management who are dealing with it, they make a decision, instead of paying the genuine supplier, they generate their own supplier, follow all the procedures. That is why the Auditor General will tell you that he gave a clean bill. Follow all the procedures But what they are doing is fraudulent. It is not, it is a fraud, it is theft. So what the PS Treasury would wish to see, and that is why you hear senior people who might not have been at the scene being asked to step aside. It is because somebody is supposed to spend time to ensure that when public money is keyed out, that money is keyed out to the person who actually delivered or a good or a service.
But can the government at least acknowledge at this point that by the time this audit report was coming out, and you've seen those glaring gaps that were in such a crucial system, that the government had pretty much failed Kenyans to have a system doing such an important job that could so easily be manipulated? I could be seated anywhere in the country, have 50 ghost IDs, user IDs to access taxpayers' money. Wasn't that a huge failure in the government? Wouldn't you admit?
I would admit there is a certain level of failure there, but remember that even the tightest systems, the federal bank the other day just lost money. What we are seeing is that ICT is a relatively new technology. And I can tell you for free that there are institutions which have gone back to their own manual systems, huge institutions, having realized that the fraudsters are moving faster than the systems in place in banks and other organizations. Be that as it may, every system must be frequently revealed to ensure that those fighting to beat that security system, as it were, because it's a system to secure public money, we remain ahead of the bad guys. What I would want to tell you, Sophia, and I would want to reiterate again, is that when I was invited there tonight, I was invited to deal with the Auditor General and an economist. Without seeming to throw any or to underrate my friend Day here, I would wish that this discussion remains in the realm of the reality of the moment. Seeming to ride a dead political horse of the bitterness of a lost election for far too long I think is besides the point. But what I want to reiterate to Kenyans is that we have fraudsters in this country. We have criminals, we have thieves.
Okay.
And some of them have found their way in government. What the government wants is for every institution involved, and we are not even congratulating the investigators who have been able to assemble 40 files within a relatively short time.
Isn't that one of the
everybody
challenges,
should
sir?
work to realize that Kenyans are losing money, political opinions, what we want tomorrow, what we want in 2022, what we want in 2030, notwithstanding.
Briefly on what you've mentioned, that we should congratulate investigators for putting together 45 files or however in number. But that's the thing right there. Should they be rushing to put together files so that everybody is happy they're filed, but their track record so far, no convictions, meaning it is that rush to put together files that in and of itself is a problem. There should be time taken to investigate, to have solid cases presented in court. So we should not be congratulating. We should be questioning whether they're doing a proper job, isn't it, sir?
I can tell you that the process is not through. When you create 40 dockets, it's not the end of it. But what we are doing is that we have monitored this team very closely.
Okay.
We have resourced it very strongly. They have resisted mountains of attempted compromise. And what we hope for in the government is that this compromise will not be moved to the next stage, so that the things you have read in the newspapers, everyone Wanjiku in this country knows some money has been stolen.
All right.
We have had individuals telling even the media, I don't know what I supplied. And therefore, to turn around tomorrow and then we start hearing that the evidence is not enough, then
All right.
we don't want to go to that level.
Okay,
Simple.
let me bring this to Ndi, and he has called you out on some of the allegations you made earlier, and to be clear, allegations because on stolen elections, the first was annulled, the second, NASA at the time chose not to participate, so to claim that without evidence, out of order, as you were saying. But David, looking at the systems that have been put in place, where in your view is the ball being dropped?
It's not a system issue.
It's a what issue?
I did some review of the budgets for the last 5 years, first year of Jubilee, to see, to try and understand. No, I was trying to understand what we have done with the 2.5 trillion shillings that Jubilee has borrowed. And just going through, just very quickly eyeballing the budgets, public finance, which is my expertise, I think 1 trillion shillings is unaccounted for. You can't explain what we did with it. And I can give you examples. If public financial management, under that budget line, all you have there is IFMIS.
Yes.
Over the past 4 years of Jubilee, development budget for IFMIS, 140 billion shillings. Now, what do you do with 140 billion shillings? There's no brick and mortar involved. There's no system investment which can cost that kind of money. That's 140 billion over 4 years. So besides the IFMIS being used to pilfer money, the budget line itself is used to steal huge sums of money.
Right.
Example number 2, you read the budget line for electricity, another big ticket development item, 280 billion shillings for transmission lines. I go to Ketraco, I check all the transmission lines that they have built, and 2,800 kilometers. I know how much it costs to build a transmission line. It cannot cost more than 100 billion shillings. Again, there's probably 150 billion shillings there that you can't explain. And I go roads, I go water. I know how to do these things. I've done this for 30 years.
Right.
And I can tell you...
So the budget is the problem?
No. It's a total collapse of public financial management. If you look at what you're saying about IFMIS, there's a parallel to the collapse of that system and the collapse of the IEBC system. You have a system which is supposed to do particular things. People decide that those controls should not be there because they want to do a particular things with the election. They dismantle the controls. You have people who decide that they want to loot and plunder the government. You have a system. They dismantle the controls. So what you're talking about is political accountability at the very highest level, because if your public financial management system fails and over 4 years you lose probably $10 billion, there are very many people who should be falling on their swords.
Yeah.
Yeah? The Treasury team should be falling on its sword. The governor of the central bank and his team should be falling on their sword, because this money is being laundered through our financial system.
The banks.
You cannot walk away with these hundreds of billions of shillings.
Right.
Even the sort of AML, all sorts of systems are supposed to catch you. So what is happening here is very similar to the state capture phenomena you saw in South Africa with the Guptas and Zuma. It's a similar phenomena. So to say that it is not political and we begin to talk about technicalities, Mr. Kiraire here is posturing. He sits in the political caucuses, I know that, but he needs to do that because of his job.
Okay. Kiraire, you have something to say on that?
I told you, Sophia, that what we talk with Ndei, with all due respect, when we're having a drink, is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I am telling Kenyans, this is not political, and watch this space. Riding a dead horse of political guerrilla tactics is neither here nor there.
Okay.
What I want to tell Kenyans is that the president is determined to leave a legacy in this country, a legacy where thieves don't wear political clothing. They are tried, they are convicted, and the money stolen is returned to the lawful owner, who is the Kenyan Wanjiku, Akinyi, and Amina.
Okay, and we're looking to see that. I wonder what your views are, Auditor General, about the financial management system, that's where we have a breakdown, because sometimes you see a ping pong, whether it's, is it the judiciary that's not convicting, is it the investigative organs, whether you have EACC, DPP, the DCI, you're raising the red flag. Is any of these institutions dropping the ball from where you sit? Or is it because you sat in that review of policy Council legal and institutional framework of the fight against corruption, and it made several recommendations. But in your view, is any of this dropping the ball?
I think it was a good initiative to have that review, and I think the report is there, and it's come up with very good recommendation. But I think we still haven't got our acts together, all the institutions, to work in a way which actually should consistently respond to, our Article 10 of the Constitution, that's the national values, and the Chapter 6 of the Constitution, which is on the integrity. We still haven't have what is a Kenyan-grown framework to force us to respond to those two chapters in a way. Let me just, I know there could be many people coming with various views about this, but just a simple case of just a lifestyle, mainstreaming a lifestyle framework for us. We should actually talk about that. And that, in my view, would have to be, let us go back to the people, let us debate what they understand and or what they want for us to what is this lifestyle audit. And in my humble view, this is a personal view, I think we should go back, and the people will tell you that in our view, you collect the views. Lifestyle audit, first of all, we say it will be done, but this is what we mean by lifestyle audit. Is it going to be, if a public servant is employed, we'll ask them at that stage to do what you call the back of the envelope. What is it bring as assets and liabilities on that, to that job? And that must be a requirement. Whether if they're told they're going to come into the interview room, that will be first of that. Are you agreeable that on day one, we will do a back of the envelope?
Yeah, because you see people transitioning from
one job to the other.
One job to the next.
Yes.
Making 100,000, the next time their banks are full of billions.
This is my crude way of saying that I think if we go down to the people will tell us what they mean, what they want us to do in lifestyle audit, because I think that will
So we need to change our law in a sense, that's what you're saying?
No, I don't think you need to change the law. Go to the people will tell you, in our view, we want our leaders or these positions, these people will, the lifestyle audit, they will have to accept certain conditions by which we will then follow them after 2 or 3 years.
Or 2 and 3 years, so that would help. You say, there's a 2018 miscellaneous amendment bill that's proposing to remove investigative powers from the EACC, and that many would argue would render EACC impotent.
Well,
Spokesperson.
I have not gone through that or been briefed about it. What I want to carry...
But if in fact it's the case, if in fact this proposal exists in the miscellaneous amendment bill 2018,
in my own opinion, EACC are trying now, but they don't have a very good record. But there is something I have said.
So you might as well disband it, because to remove
there is something
even,
he has said.
I will go back to what he has said, sir. Let me hold you to this one. If investigative powers are removed from EACC, they don't have prosecutorial powers, they'll pretty much be conveyor belts. So why not then disband it? Would be what the executive, through this legislation and Parliament, of course, passing it, seeking to do, isn't it?
Well, I would say that as at this point in time, I've not been briefed on that either by the AG's office or by the EACC, so I'm not really competent to give an opinion as an office. What I would want not to be lost to Kenyans, and this is very critical, and this is one of the things the government is looking into. Let us go to the last season of the last government, the first season of devolution.
Yes, briefly, please.
We have seen people who are governors flying helicopters. We have heard of foundations which are accredited with 2 billion within the first 2 years of existence. We have seen all kinds of people coming up with very weird mansions in the countryside, in the villages. Those people in service of our people. What we want to tell Kenyans is that this time round, the government will not allow it to happen. And I would want the county governments to listen to this very carefully. don't hope that you can do this for another 5 years.
And they would perhaps point the finger back at you and say, as a national government, I hope you don't do this.
Excellent. Even in the national government, the number of four-wheel drives on our street today is higher than Stockholm. These gentlemen have traveled. They'll tell you that.
Okay.
And we cannot, the kind of population in Kenya proportion which lives in the rundas of this world, if you are to live that way in Los Angeles, with California having a few multiplier of hundreds of our economy, you would have to show for it.
Seconds,
So,
sir, because our time is up.
what the Auditor General has said about putting our acts together and monitoring people on a day-to-day basis, not after 9 billion has been stolen, is critical,
All
and
right.
that is one of the things the government would want to achieve.
All right, 30 seconds, Ndi, your closing remarks.
You know, my friend John Githongo will tell you that we have finished all you can do in bureaucratic corruption fighting. The laws, the institutions, everything that can be done in the world, we have done. And I've been that part of that business. We started TI Kenya with John about 2000 and did lots of things.
Right.
So what is remaining is that to accept in Kenya that this is a political problem. It is a problem of our body politic. These bureaucrats cannot solve the problem, because it is their bosses who are doing it. Yeah?
Allegedly.
It is their bosses who are in charge
Allegedly.
of it. The point is, if it wasn't their bosses' job is to fire those people who have failed to protect public money. These bosses have not fired people. You don't have to prosecute them. If I put you in the treasury to look after public money,
Right.
and $10 billion by just looking at it over 4 years, you cannot explain what we've done with it, those people should not be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. David Ndi, economist. Appreciate your time with us tonight. Spokesperson, Eric Kiraithe. Auditor General Edward Ouko as well on Checkpoint. Your thoughts, your sentiments and insights always appreciated, and your views, which I will be sampling later on, also very welcome. Thank you for staying with us. Robinson of Kenya will be coming up next with Sports News. Please stay with us.